I'm back with another video. It is 7:25 p.m. It is September 20th, Saturday evening. So I wanted to come on here and make another video. And, I've been very expressive today. I already made two videos earlier. And I think what's just running through my mind, okay, is because, for a while I was shutting it off and I was doing okay. But like I said, I'm working on my fourth quarter newsletter. And I really want my fourth quarter newsletter to be a time where I can just kind of air everything out because I'm going to talk about other things. You know what I mean? Like maybe certain ideas that I have or interest in my, when I say the occult, I feel as though people took this and really stretched it out and maybe exaggerated who and what I was, or, I think there was a lot of misconceptions about me in general, and that was very damaging to me. And of course I will say, when I was younger, I started studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and at that time I also developed an interest in the occult. And at that time, growing up as a teenager all the way up to my, I would say, early 20s, there were times where if somebody brought in a Ouija board or something, I would play with it, and I realized how dark those energies are. So I realized that there were certain things that I would not do, and I developed a form of discernment as to what kinds of forms of the occult that I myself would felt comfortable with. And I do understand that this is one of the reasons, this issue, where we have people who have shown an interest in the occult and yet used my stuff or imitated me and didn't give me credit and used religion as an excuse. We can see that there's a lot of hypocrisy in this whole issue. What it really comes down to is, somebody who utilizes the gifts or who has been blessed with these gifts. And I'm in no way, in any way, trying to be arrogant about that. As a matter of fact, I feel very kind of uncomfortable about the whole savior thing, to be honest with you. But I mean, it is what it is. And I actually learned how people viewed me through watching other YouTube videos, being referred to as the chosen one, coming to understand me being Prince Alamehu, following it all the way down the line, and then this is what I came to understand. So I'm in no way trying to project this or whatever. It is what it is, and this has been discussed, you know, among certain social groups, and as well as secret societies, as well as out in the open. So people know who I am. Okay, I'm not. The issue is I started getting vocal in my videos and about human trafficking because obviously, I was a part of this program, and I was never allowed to know anything, and that is what startled me. That is what startled me. Okay, I mean, obviously, I think that people have been making use of my image and thinking that I was a consensual, like, celebrity, like I signed a contract. Okay, I've never. Okay, I am not. Okay, I am not a what do you call it? I'm not a celebrity. Okay, I'm not a celebrity. Okay, so anyway, in the way that people would think that a celebrity would be, like, somebody who gets recognized in magazines, and I'm aware that I've been in movies and stuff like that. What I think I've been exploited for is me being somebody who frequently changes my hair, but originally I was highlighted because of my bloodline, and my bloodline is, of course, of the King Solomon, and this is why. And then also my contributions, interest in music and stuff like that, which is cool. I keep getting these messages in my mind that there's possibilities of me having some sort of connection with the celebrity tribe. I'm kind of keeping my distance away from everyone. I'm trying to be safe and trying to feel very comfortable. I feel like, I've been attacked because of all the things that happened to me. And you have to understand, from my point of view, how disturbing this whole thing is, coming to understand that my family has been involved with, I'm sorry, I dropped something, have been involved in, human trafficking, and the people that were involved, and it was a force that you guys used. It was a force that you used, and the persistence, okay, is what caused me disturbance, as well as mainly the fact is that these people are not my relations. They're not. It's like, this is the reason why for all these years they mistreated me, were committed to misunderstanding me. Like, I came with a backstory, meaning, I came with the backstory of CB Braganza. So, as far as they knew, is that my family, Lisa, Rashawn, Tanya, whatever, looked at me like I was some sort of heathen and that something was wrong with me. I was blameworthy for being the natural spiritual being that I am. And that's it. It's not like I've ever like raised hell or tried to prevent other people from believing what they wanted to believe, or me trying to enforce my beliefs on anybody else. I literally have been minding my own business, trying to tiptoe through, my this existence without having people bothering me, dragging me into their problems. And of course, this all comes down to the issue of cloning, and it comes down to these expectations of me converting to a religion. It originally started that way, okay? And like, instead of people just coming outright and telling me, hey, I expect you to do this, which I, at that time, would have obviously said, hey, this is something I don't agree with, blah, 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 blah. And we would have resolved it there instead of making this big hoopla deal out of it. You know what I mean? Which caused me a lot of psychological pain, especially coming to find out the reason why the push of the religious nudge was not because somebody was actually concerned about my spiritual well-being. It was because people wanted to manipulate me into further, forms of abuse. Okay. And like I said, I'm a little too sharp for that. And a lot of this, I think, comes from my intuition, and also, because of me being kind of onto the whole cloning issue in my past life. I had talked about this in one of my newsletters about me, when it was time for me to leave, die in my last life. I didn't really want to be. I didn't want to come back again, and I can see why. Okay, because what this group does is that they literally sabotaged my life. Okay, sabotaged it in a sense of where I was set up in a fake family dynamic with a mother who obviously exploited me behind my back, had absolutely no regard for me as a human being whatsoever, allowed people to surveil my house, allowed all of this sort of stuff to happen. Now, mind you, I had no idea any of that was going on. I don't believe, even though, okay, I understand that maybe I've never chosen to be a part of organized religion, but what my parents allowed me, what my mother allowed me to believe for the longest time, is that, like I said, after Olivet Baptist Church, my parents I never saw my mom make any effort to send us or connect us to any sort of religion. So for the fact that my mom was actually considering herself religious and being sucked up in all of this sort of stuff, this cult, okay, it blows my mind. Okay, and then coming to find out everybody's fake, and it literally, you have to understand, from my point of view, from somebody who is sane, okay, among people who have been brainwashed and comfortable with their brainwashing with MK Ultra for the very longest time. And so yes, I'm quite shocked and amazed. Um, People tend to like my views, and I think that's cool. I've never, like I said, I never wanted to be out in public with my views. I've only started talking about how I personally feel about things until when I realized that I was a targeted individual. And I'm shocked that people ever thought for 1 second that I would ever be a threat to anybody's way of life. And the reason why is because, okay, now I never became a formal Jehovah's Witness, but what I appealed to me about their religion is the fact that they took the stance on political issues. I didn't want to be somebody who felt boastful about my beliefs or anything. I obviously had my opinions, but I did not, me as a person, as a human, okay, at that time, me believing that I was just a mere human. Okay, well, I didn't think it was my place to sit here and feel like I had these absolute beliefs and I could just like enforce them on anybody. I just wanted to kind of stand back from that. And that was something I respected with Jehovah's Witnesses at that time, okay? So for anybody to even think that I had all these white people in this community, as well as not just white people, but like my in-laws, okay, who should have known better. Like they'd known me even though I would obviously say that we're not close, okay, after coming to find out these people have been working against me for the longest time, but at the same time, they've observed me. They've known that I've never been somebody who's been like a part of like any sort of group or anti anything. I've always been like, well, if people believe what they want to believe, I guess they can do that as long as they're not affecting my world. Okay, I've always been that way. But yet I've had people want to kind of buck up and create some sort of fight and drama over something that I have absolutely no interest in doing. However, I also recognize my right to continue my life as I need to, based on what I've been doing, minding my own business. I've been minding my own business for like the longest time, and I resent the outside intrusion. what I did send off, like I said, I talked about the human targets video. And the reason why, obviously, is because my plans of moving back to Lancaster, California have been thwarted. Okay. I feel as though Karen, and I'm not trying to bring you up, Karen, go. I am not. Okay. But you have to understand from my point of view, and yes, okay, it may be in. People project. They think, oh, if I was 54 years old and I didn't have any family, I'd stay put and I would do this, and this, and this. I think about how what I'm me staying put is going to do and affect everyone else's life, okay? Like how I feel bad really that, me, being a victim of human trafficking, okay, against my own will, okay, somehow trickles down to my grown son having to take care of me. I feel guilty about that, right? And I don't really have any reason to feel guilty about that. And the reason why is because I didn't ask for any of this. And I get upset about this issue over and over again. And what I've dealt with and what I can tell you what I've experienced is that I am somebody who has dealt with tremendous egos throughout the ages. Like, and people not wanting to fess up to their struggle of admitting that what it really is that they feel maybe a little competitive against CB Briganza. They feel a little bit competitive about who I was in my past incarnations. And this is one of the reasons why they feel so attached to me. Okay? And they feel attached to me in a different way. Unattached to me in a way that they feel amused by me. Okay? And in me, I feel like you feel been so amused by me that they have dehumanized me as a person at this point, where you're ignoring the fact that number one, you've played these mental games on a person. What these people are they mentally destructive. Okay, because they're traffickers. Okay, if you traffic people, you obviously do not see them as anything other than cattle or something along those lines. Okay, and this is the reason why I've been dealing and having been confronted with this sort of thing. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that I was right about everything all along. All along. The town is very quiet right now. Okay, people are acknowledging the fact that throughout my life, I think what triggered Lisa and triggered my other siblings into thinking that this was a game. Like literally this community and the people who got involved, as far as like, maybe online community, as well as people, customer service agents and whatever, they literally trivialize a person's life and they start to think that your life is a game. And this is one of the reasons why they talk about things like hazing and stuff like this in company handbooks, because when people get out of control, out of like just playing games or trying to be silly, okay? But the thing is, it's not just being silly. What it is people, actually having very deep, dark, pathological resentments towards not even necessarily you, but just you being placed as a target for other people's frustration, okay? And it becomes a psychological nightmare, okay? A psychologically devastating nightmare, a phenomenon, okay? Like I described to Steve Murray about how, workplace mobbing starts, how you get these so-called good people all of a sudden become evil and wicked people, okay? Why? Because you allow it to happen, because when you take a person who has a title, they have a responsibility to conduct themselves in a manner that does not ignite this sort of frenzy, okay? And this is where many leaders fail, Okay, it's important for people to understand who have any kind of weight, any kind of power, to be very careful with their words. Very careful. Okay, and so this is exactly what happens. This is exactly what happens. And see, I know that, when I worked at Murray Family Farms, I was criticized by, these so called managers, right? I was the bad one. But surprise, surprise, because many of these people were a part of different religions that ordinarily would have shrugged each other, snubbed each other, not talked to each other. Steve Landry was a Seventh-day Adventist. We had Steve Murray, who was like, the science of mind. We had what was it? I forgot Lillian. Lillian went over to every church, whatever. Okay, my point is that all of these people are nothing more to me than hypocrites. Hypocrites who were united by one thing, and that was the one thing that they were united by was to have someone to bully. That is it. That is it. Okay, and so because of my religious training, which I look back now, when you even think about who Jesus was in the Bible, Jesus was always looking into scriptures or philosophy or talking to older people or whatever when he was a child, because this is the sort of stuff, and I did the same thing as when I was Maria Gordon. Okay, so I understand. I'm looking at, and it's always been this way throughout the incarnations of my life, dealing with this group of people who always feel as though they want to compete against me when I am just sitting here trying to run for my life, scared to death. Okay, now I'm coming to realize that this goes way, 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 way back, way back, way back. Okay, and yes, for the longest time, I have suffered and endured the punishments, the sneers, the bad reputation from a bunch of religious hypocrite people, and who have been described as in the Bible multiple times about having we call it a hypocrisy or some sort of like fake face, but a very strong power. And I would say that this is a very good example of it. Okay, I've always taken, everybody who remembers me remembers I was somebody who was always devoted to those sort of interests. And of course, yes, I did have an interest in a cult. When you realize that you have a gift, when you realize when you have a gift, not just a gift that is based on fantasy, like you start realizing that, I thought about this one day and the next day something happened. You're starting to put one and two together. You start realizing, okay, yes, certain forms of the occult, really are true. You start to want to research it and investigate it. And what I say, things relating to the occult that could be kind of dark came across my what do you call it, little personal library when I was younger. It certainly did. Did I read it? Yes, I did. Did I decide to go any further with it? No, I did not. It was a little too dark for me. Not my choice. Okay, it's not my thing. I recognize that. Okay, but I would say that we have these Nazi groups who had an interest in the occult. It's the same thing. Okay, so in this case, we had a group of people who had an interest in the spiritual, the essence of the occult, and they went so far to me, I look at cloning as a form of necromancy. Necromancy is something that they call like a part of death magic. Okay, you see these old drawings of and depictions of people being raised from the dead, from the grave. That is a depiction. Okay, but you know what I'm really starting to think? Thinking about, it's really just people extracting fluids, creating whatever, and being able to clone other people. Okay, and it's kind of over exaggerated in these sort of depictions, but this is obviously something that's been going on for a very, very, very long time. Okay, and so I understand that. Okay, but what goes on is that I've come to understand that throughout the ages with these cloning operations, and then coming together with things like churches, the two fusions together has been absolutely disastrous, and it has allowed people to fester with mind control and also a form of delusion. They would love to believe that I somehow ended up coming out this way because blah 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 blah, when it's really an operation that's been going on for a very, very long time. Okay, I no one in the right mind would purposely come back in a situation like this. Okay, I honestly am mortified that you could, in the program and everything, all of it, it's bloodline targeting. You know what I mean? And really, like I said, when you think about the power that this particular group has, yes, if you have the power to clone, that's amazing. If you have the ability to control things like certain sources and whatever, then that is power. be very grateful for that power, okay? But I've never been somebody who wants to compete. To me, it's like there's nothing in this world that is like, nothing is more important to me than, how can I say this? Than just simple stuff. You know what I mean? And the simple stuff that I like to do is just kind of hang out by myself at this point. Anyway, the message I'm getting is something about my garden. Yes, I decided to create that garden because I wanted another place to be. Okay, I can't always get to the library. You never know if the library is going to be open, closed, or you even feel like getting up to go to the library. It's nice to have a space to go to in your house other than your bedroom. Okay, so I enjoy being outside. Okay, and I also have the ability to have a little bit of privacy in an enclosed patio. And then I also wanted to throw some color out there. And I've had it before. Like a while ago, when I first moved in, I actually had a little solar type fountain and everything. It was very peaceful. When I got tired and frustrated in my house, I would walk outside and just kind of hang outside. And it allows me to get outside and be by myself. Okay, and that's why I created it, because I have been dealing with a lot of forms of mental issues with memories of my family, thinking about how sick and twisted this whole thing is, and thinking about how disgusted I am that for many years people actually believe this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And then I keep thinking about how the education system got all screwed up and everything, all of it. Okay, and of course I'm not comfortable with any of it. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I'm very disturbed by it. Okay, so I deal with a lot of mood swings and stuff like that. The message I am getting, something about the celebrity tribe. I understand the celebrity tribe was a part of, the sabotage of me and everything else. Okay, so I'm dealing with my own issues right now over stuff, because obviously it leaves you with the feeling of who the hell can you ever possibly trust after dealing with something like that. Okay, religious mind control is one of the sickest forms of mind control that you could ever be under. Okay, you know why? Because it gives people this sense of invincibility, and it gives them this false sense of authority. And that's one of the reasons why I started realizing that this is kind of mixing in with politics and everything else. It was starting to get deadly when all of this stuff, DEI stuff, started taking place. Okay, so I started talking about it. And to be honest with you, I am somebody who, like I said, I really hate dealing with politics. I hate it. I would rather just keep my head down, go to work, come home. That is my style. I don't like doing anything. But yes, I do love music, and I know I've talked about how when I was working over at Murray Family Farms, me being at Murray Family Farms was a huge problem, okay, for their little racist agenda, okay? It's very difficult for them. It's frustrating for white people because I don't fit into their box. They want me to fit into a box, but what they don't understand is it's impossible for me to fit into a box. Then I get frustrated because I don't know what box you want me to fit in. And then I keep thinking, okay, what kind of TV show did they watch? No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, I am a serious person who just kind of like, I get very frustrated having to deal with the environment that they created, and dealing with Steve Murray and his foolishness, and the issue relating to my hair and the exploitation of these families, and just all of it. All of it. You know what I mean? It just got weirder, darker as we went down the whole rabbit hole. Okay. And then I ended up losing, faith in people, just being absolutely disgusted, and of course I'm going to feel that way. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I got the whole human targets thing out of the way. I originally scheduled it for September 19th, okay? But like I said, I do not like looking for work. I hate looking for work. I do not like encountering, fake people. I do not like fake job interviews. Like I said, they think it's okay to trivialize something important like my life, being able to pay bills, being able to, take care of myself for retirement. For many years, for 12 consecutive years, these people were playing fiddly fuck with my life, tossing my life up in the air, assuming that I want to be matched up with some sort of kingdom spouse. Okay, meanwhile, I was terrified. Okay, it doesn't matter how cute a person is. Okay, when a woman is all by herself, she does not want to be put in a situation where she's, she doesn't have any protection. Okay, it's terrifying for a person, and what was going on was, it was too much for me to deal with. Okay, so anyway, I think I've said pretty much enough without disclosing what's going on in the newsletter. Okay, and the reason why I am talking about the newsletter is because I feel as though this is something that is important to me. Okay, I want to continue the newsletter. The intuitive messages I'm getting is something about the concept of Egypt being here in America. Like I said, it either is or isn't. Chances are it probably is. It could very well be that I was one of the original indigenous people. If so, wonderful. Okay, I'm not kicking up a ruckus about it. Do I suspect that? Because I know that there was a lot of white supremacist groups talking, speculating, imagining all kinds of scenarios months ago. Okay, some of it I was just rolling my eyes at, and then whatever. But some of these people actually are willing to act upon this sort of stuff. This is one of the reasons why I've noticed that there's certain people who are not here in the community anymore. Okay, this is what I'm talking about: dangerous projection, but something that is very profound, because what it really did was it told you what was exactly in their heart. If they're that confident that they're going to assume that you're going to behave in the way that they are assuming that you're going to behave, they are projecting their feeling onto you. This is what these people do, okay? Meanwhile, I'm sitting here. You know what I was thinking the entire time? I never thought for 1 second that I was ever being obstructive or trying to be an, what do you call it, obstructive to society, nor did I ever think that I was being a menace or disrespectful to society in any way. When I was always encountering people, I always said please and I always said thank you. Okay. Yes, I do like fashion, but I've always understood that fashion was something that was okay to do. I understand that people had their personal preferences, like, some women like, the 1950s or the very dainty look. Like men like women wear the housewife look and whatever. To me, if you're a couple, you talk about what you guys like, whatever, okay? Some women like the tomboy look, some people, whatever. And this is what I've always liked, okay? And I honestly never thought it was a big deal, ever. I never even thought it was an issue or up for discussion. Um, and so but then I also understand that people also had these sort of ideas of what the savior was supposed to look like. Now we're going to throw the savior issue into it, because this is really what it comes down to. I understand that people been talking about me being the savior for a very long time. It is not something that I made up on my own. Okay, like I said, I realized, I thought that this was an issue about me, my workplace, the stupid Murray family farms, and all this other stuff. Then I come up with the cloning, the King Solomon. Then I saw a bunch of white dudes doing videos about my family bloodline. And then I realized, you know how intuitive I am. I'm like, holy shit, they're talking about me. Okay, so it doesn't surprise me that I would be what do you call it, the Messiah or something like that, because I will tell you, throughout my entire life, these sort of spiritual quests were the only thing I ever cared about. And this is one of the reasons why I enjoy being by myself, because this is the kind of topics I engage in. This is the kind of material that I've read in the past. This is the kind of stuff I do. You know what I mean? I care about the spirit realm. Period. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't care about what goes on in the earth, because I have, like, I used to be very engaged in what was going on at work. I used to really like work, and now I've just fallen even deeper into the spirit realm interest, because now I understand that work is a place that causes severe mental trauma, and in order for me to heal from that and also combat the negative energy that's most likely going to come from an energy field like that, I need to be able to delve more into the supernatural. I'm not happy having to deal with, what I had to deal with. Okay, it was absolutely horrible working for those companies. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I needed to say that. I needed to have like this time to talk about my feelings this last weekend. I know that I got that human targets thing out of the way. So now that I have that out of the way, I want to finish up my newsletter, which I'm already on like page 22 or something like that. It's another long, long newsletter. Okay. And like I said, I want to talk more about other issues besides this. But you got to understand, I wake up every day with a completely different reality, and I have to adjust to that reality. I have to adjust to the reality that my mother, Mary Gordon, was actually just a gold digger. That's all she was. Okay. And hey, I get it. At the same, I get it, because what else was she positioned to be but a gold digger? Think about it, okay? There was no other option, no other way out for her, nothing else, no other thing that she could possibly be but a gold digger. And of course, because she's unhappy with her lot in life, she's going to enact her frustration, and she's going to act her frustration on the person that is causing the most problems, meaning you, because you were there disrupting her children that she really wants, okay? Her golden children. Okay, and it just becomes a nightmare. And see, this is why I'm saying I resent the church's involvement in the orchestration, the putting together families, the fake family setup, the Diana Ross spy, Tanya, whatever, that whole nightmare. Okay, I came to my family fully sincere. Like, I thought they were my siblings. I thought my mother was my mother. Now, I've never been over their house as much. Maybe I've never spent as much time with my siblings. Like Lisa spent more time with my mom. Okay, why? Because she lived in Lancaster and all this other stuff. Okay, but that didn't mean that I didn't care about them. You know what I mean? So it's the whole idea of having to use other people, slave out other people in order to survive is what disturbs me. I will tell you, as somebody who has raised my son on their own, okay, I am so grateful to say that I have never done anything to slave out my own child. I have never done that. I have never been somebody who relied on the foster care system to rely on other kids so that I can use them for stuff or resources or anything, because I know people have used me for my resources, meaning, this is one of the reasons why my father got the job that he had and everything else, okay? And I will tell you, I frown upon it because it literally reduces the quality of life. I've never wanted anything but the best for my son. I've known what it's like to be absolutely miserable and to be around people who are nothing more than two-faced, hypocritical, and using God as an excuse to hide the fact that they're evil. This is what really, and I can see right through it. I can see right through it. Okay, it doesn't fool me. So anyway, I had to talk about that. I had to talk about that because it's the religious issue, the deception, the coming to realize the new reality. The new reality is that I am Maria Gordon, question mark, meaning, I understand that, James Gordon was actually, and I understand, legally, on paper, I'm Maria Gordon, it is what it is, okay? But at the same time, it's like, you get misplaced, your bloodline is purposely misplaced, lied about, distorted, so that a group of people could feel superior. That's it. No other reason. No other purpose or behind that. You know what I mean? And it's like a no-brainer. They have all the resources to beat and win at the games, and why would I want to play anyway? I don't know. I'm too into my spiritual world, and I'm comfortable there. Meaning, like, why wouldn't I be comfortable in my spiritual world? And why shouldn't I be? It's like, I've dealt with the outside world. I've seen how hypocritical it is. I've seen how cutthroat it is. I've seen how fake it is. Who the hell can you trust? And how do you know who people are in this world? I thought Mary Gordon was my mother. You know what I mean? It's like, who the hell? I don't know who anyone is anymore. So it makes sense to be cautious and be concerned about your very step in this world. Like you be concerned about how you live your life. I can't control what other people do. All I can do is, control about how I respond to what happens to me, or, just kind of roll with the punches. I do what I do. I do what I have to do. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that I got placed in this situation, and that for many years, I've been abused by, a narcissistic group of people who want to use religion as an excuse to, hide the truth. And the truth is that this has everything to do with bloodline targeting. And I would never play that game. I just don't have it. And no, it has nothing to do with me trying to be a woman's lib person or anything. It really has something to do with this. That this has been going on since I was a kid, even before I was the age of being married. Okay, it's just they use these things as an excuse to use other issues to bully you. Okay, but I know that when I was not married, they would bother me. I know when I was married, they bothered me. And then when I left my husband, they bothered me. And then it's always been that way. You know what I mean? And then they always want to act like what you're doing is something wrong with what you're doing. What I'm doing is a part of my survival, is how I have to survive. I have to navigate through all the drama that gets created unnecessarily. And it's not an act of defiance, it's an act of me trying to survive. You perceive it that way because you are cutthroat and you want to play this game till the end. It's like it's sick and it's disgusting. I'm somebody who I just trying to get by. You know what I mean? I don't even care about any of it. Like I'm into what I'm into. You know what I mean? I understand we have, like, celebrities who are, they got their picture, and obviously they consider me a celebrity because they have exploited my image. Okay, I am in no way somebody who recognizes myself, acknowledges myself, or sees myself as a celebrity. Like I said, I don't recall ever being a celebrity, having any contracts, or agreeing to my image being exploited. But they're using it as an excuse to justify them exploiting me. That's what it is, okay? Because just because I'm adopted does not give you the justification to misuse someone, or use yeah, to misuse someone in the manner that they have. So anyway, I needed to talk about that because I think it's that issue, the issue of my true origins, is important to me. You know what I mean? I am proud to be C.B. Berganza. I know the church wanted to make him a bad person. I love this man. You know why? Because I have come to love myself. And I know people don't get it, and it's too bad that they don't get it. It's not about arrogance, it's about the proper way of surviving, and the proper way of living, and the proper way of seeing things, okay? It is a very strong spiritual level to accept yourself, love yourself, and appreciate yourself, and tend to your own needs, okay? It's what you're supposed to do, okay? And it's fulfilling, okay, believe it or not. And uh, I get the intuitive message, something about the concept of Egypt. If it is, like, for example, I'm of an alien race, okay, like this particular alien race may have populated the Native Americans here, or the native population, possibly, okay. The same alien race could have created some sort of starships or whatever and moved over and used Egypt as well. It's so deep, you know what I mean? And I'm sure a lot of people have probably done readings on this. Some people understand aliens and the history of aliens, specific as referred to as aliens, more than I do. Okay, I've only heard people's histories, or histories from different angles or whatever, but never really hearing it from the standpoint of an alien race. You know what I mean? It's interesting, and I do think the card that the card design that I created is very helpful. You know what I mean? And I did buy some cardstock to make it more formal, make it more beautiful. I will be doing those in stencil and doing them, hand making them individually in the future. Okay, I always have a project in mind. Okay, I'm somebody who just believes in constantly generating ideas. Why? Because I have to have something to care about. Okay, I have to have something to care about. Okay, I don't have, like, ideally some people devote their life and their free time to things like their family. Okay. I do not have family. Okay, yes, I do have a son who's like in his 30s. Okay. You can only sit here and, like, pinch his cheeks and pat his head so many times during the day. He is a grown man, for God's sake. Okay. So he is not the center of my focus. Okay. My spirituality is important, as well as certain things that I choose to do that relate to my projects. So there may have been people who resented me for having this internal drive to write or to do certain projects, because this is what I live for. I don't have anything to live for other than what entertains me. Okay. I don't have family. Okay. I do not have people that I can trust. I don't have, let's just say, for example, I was married or I had a best friend. Okay. I don't have those elements in my life. Okay. I have to be very careful about the kind of people that come into my life. So what do I devote myself to? I devote myself to my projects, those and the things that fuel me and give me a source of life and a sense of normalcy, which very few people have ever done that in my life. I've only dealt with situations where I've been set up with pathological liars, fake family members, lying co-workers, belittling co-workers, spies, whatever. Okay, all relating to the church and stuff like that, and stuff that I would never even want to participate in. And the intuitive message I'm getting right now is about the benevolent spirits that hang out on my patio space. Now, like I said, I don't see them, okay, but I do know that there's energy sometimes that you can't see with your eye, okay, or perhaps maybe the angle that I'm at. It is a very calming place that I like to go sit at my patio table and relax at times, and that's it, okay. But it would not surprise me if I do have supernatural experiences in my patio. Why? Because everything that I do is considered holy. Everything that I do is considered sacred, okay? Because every time I go into a place, I usually go to into a place with a clean conscience. I have a clean conscience. You know why? Because I don't have to sit here and feel guilty about me screwing somebody over or gossiping about somebody and worrying about it getting back to them, blah, 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 blah. You know why? Because I have a clean conscience. When you have a clean conscience, okay, when you have a clean conscience, okay, you immediately have a connection to the divine. And this is most likely going to create issues or manifestations of spiritual things in origin. That is just the way it is, okay? And I am somebody who this happens to often because I am a holy person. I'm holy, okay? Um, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Like I said, I'm glad I got a chance to talk. It's important that I, get this out and say it and talk about my reality. And my reality is that I am a woman, a working woman, okay, who has an adult son, who is a victim of MK Ultra, whose family uh, emotionally abandoned them, I guess, or didn't want them in the first place, or whatever. That was a fake family setup, okay? So I'm responsible for myself. I am a woman who's all by herself in this world, and I've done the best I could, okay? It's unfortunate that I've dealt with, the kind of people that I've had to deal with, okay? Like I said, chances are I've dealt with the same kind of deceitful people when I was CB Braganza. Don't forget, I've always been surrounded. It's always been a game to these people. Like, let's beat. And I know that the Mormons and stuff like that have always liked to belittle CB Braganza. Uh, mainly over racial reasons or whatever. Very little empathy for who he was as a person. But yeah, he was a victim of racial mistreatment, sexism, everything you can possibly think of. And he was innocent. And like I said, he's been innocent. And it's been pride, it's been arrogance, and it's been all the isms you can possibly think of that has blinded people to admitting the truth. C.B. Braganza, as well as all his incarnations, has always been a child of the divine. Okay, I'm going to wrap this one up. Take care. Bye.